Chris Lee and Blake Lovell of Southeastern 14 here. We are previewing SEC basketball games for Tuesday night. We're in a rush today, so we don't have time to do our usual. Here's the lines that everybody's got. So what we'll give you are tip-off times and Ken Pom predictions here. Florida goes to Georgia at 6 Central on the SEC network, and I would presume the Gators are going to be favored in this one. And they are. They are a 4-point favorite, according to Ken Pomeroy, with a 63% chance to win. Of course, a lot of that would probably include Colin Castleton being in Florida's lineup, which he is not. That said, Georgia hadn't played too well of late. It's flashed at times, but it's lost 3 in a row, although it's to Alabama, Arkansas, Missouri. Did have a couple wins in a row, starting with Kentucky. But Georgia's been bad more often than not. And Florida actually has been competitive even without Castleton. Not always winning, but competitive, Blake.
True, but I am going to go against the grain here, which we don't do very often. And remember, this is one of the times I've done it elsewhere as well this season. It was the exact same game. I picked Georgia to beat Florida on the road back on January the 7th. That didn't happen. But it's the Mike White Bowl yet again. And I've got to think that Georgia's going to step up in this one and perhaps give Mike White a victory over his former team. Even though there's no reason to think that because they've lost their last 3 games by 49 points, 32 points, and 22 points. So really a lot of great research going into my pick here on that. But, I mean, really outside the second half against Missouri, as we said, Georgia's been a different team at home. They did beat Kentucky. They beat LSU. I know they lost the game to Ole Miss, but it feels like outside of the 20 minutes in the second half against Missouri, every home game they play feels like it's been close. And so I think if you bank on that, assuming it's going to be close, Florida, as I mentioned earlier, I just don't, it's a team that they just don't have a lot to play for. Georgia doesn't either, but, maybe it is the pride thing of trying to get Mike White a win. And if they do that, what happens? Both teams become 7-10 in the league, and there then becomes a shot that Florida could be in the Wednesday night games, which would just be very weird to think about.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know why. If Florida being there would just be a strange thing.
What if that's ever happened?
I
bet it
I
hasn't.
wouldn't think so. No. Yeah, that would just be a weird thing. So, the more likelihood, like you said, is I will understand if Florida's favor, and I will certainly understand if Florida wins this game. I don't know how much you can take away from the previous one because Castleton, had 12 points, 8 rebounds, 7 blocks. Going back and looking at that stat line, they had some other guys step up, so that's going to be the key, of course, as usual for Florida without him on the floor. But Chris's guy Terry Roberts took a lot of shots in that game, and so
Always the death knell.
I don't know. We'll see, but I feel like this is a toss up in a sense, just because of the Mike White effect. And that game last time was pretty close, and Georgia got off to a great start. Florida made its run, but I'll take Georgia here to pull off the win. Although Florida, they've lost whatever. They've lost to a lot of good teams here recently. I really like the way we've talked about just different guys. Riley Kugel, I've mentioned him a lot this season. One of the bright spots at the moment for the Gators, but I'll take Georgia.
All right. Can't wait to see this one. Tennessee hosts Arkansas. Arkansas's got Nick Smith Jr. back. By the way, Ken Pom has got the Vols as a 73% favorite at home. With, let's see, a 7-point favorite with a 73% chance to win. Game tips off at, 8 Central in Knoxville. Tennessee's been a different team without, good grief, not enough caffeine here. Arkansas has been a different team with Nick Smith Jr. I'm just going to let you talk.
Tennessee's been a different team too with Nick Smith Jr.
I mean, Tennessee would be a different team with Nick Smith Jr.
They would.
That's indefensible. I mean, it's very defensible.
Tennessee is also a different team with Josiah Jordan James, as I said in the last video. So we can segue it to that. Yeah, we all know what Chris was saying. Let's cut him some slack. All right, Nick Smith by the end of the video is going to be playing starting point guard for Kentucky, but it's okay. It's fine. He'll switch back to Arkansas when they play that game on Saturday. But Yeah, I think it's like you said, it's so hard to expect Arkansas not to have a chance to beat anybody now because they do have him back. And as I've repeated over and over again, it just gives them a different dynamic. And I think that's the name of the game here against Tennessee, knowing how well they defend. Um, I think Arkansas can now perhaps try to crack the code a bit in terms of scoring against Tennessee, which, like we said, it's not like, I mean, the Missouri game was kind of a one off, right? For a team just to shoot as well as it did against Tennessee. I wouldn't expect the same here from Arkansas, but because I mean, Missouri's they're a better shooting team. But I do think it's at least interesting to see how Arkansas attacks Tennessee on the defensive side, because they got ways to do it. And you know what I'm going to say. They better attack Tennessee and try to get to the free throw line because Tennessee is a what? Remember, think about the games we've seen. Tennessee Alabama game. What was the big talking point coming out of it? Alabama fans were not happy because they felt like there was a lot of physicality, a lot of things that were not called. But as I said too, I said that's the way Tennessee plays defense, and sometimes that will matter, how a game's officiated, and because they are a very physical team, and so that's something I think for Arkansas, who's also a very physical team. Can they get to the free throw line enough against Tennessee? Because I keep going back to it. Now the difference is if you don't get there as much, well, you've got, Nick Smith that can open up the offense a little bit. So before I thought it was just essential because, that's just I think was a bigger part of the equation and what they had to do to grind their way to some of those wins. But that's going to be an interesting point here. I think you look at in this game is can Arkansas, get to the free throw line against Tennessee? And I think that's an important aspect of it. Again, Tennessee's how they guard Nick Smith, right? Because when you think about it, easily the best defensive team they've played since he's returned in terms of a full sort of setting. As we say, he didn't play a lot of minutes against Mississippi State or A&M. If you're talking about expecting him out there for 30 minutes, this will be the best defensive team they've seen. Now, Alabama's a good defensive team too, right? But I just think Tennessee and Knoxville is a different type of scenario as we've seen before. So I mean, I don't think I think there's going to be people that will just kind of lean on Tennessee. And you said, I mean, the number Ken Palm has it at 7. I think that's high, for the way Arkansas is playing right now. Yeah, I think as I always do, I'm going to use the cop out here, but like in these kind of games, you know what I do? I pick the home team. But I don't know. This is one with Arkansas that I feel like how close they were at Alabama. They played pretty well there. And, I think this is one with Tennessee. Are we back to fully trusting Tennessee just because they beat South Carolina by 40? I don't know. So I think the point differential is more interesting to me here than anything because for some reason, I just think this is going to be close, really close. And I think Arkansas's got a shot to win, but I'll go the normal route of picking the home team in these kind of games. So I guess I'll take the Vols here, but not a very convincing pick for me on this one.
We're doing this Monday early afternoon. Do we have a feel on Julian Phillips and whether he plays?
Well, yeah, and that's important too because, no, I mean I don't, and Tyreek Key too, right? He didn't play either, so yeah, that's a good question. I don't know, and I think that will be interesting to see because, like I said, if Tennessee wants to get to where they want to go long term, I think they need both those guys because Key we know can give them an offensive scoring punch. So can Phillips, but I think they need that, and I'm just curious to see. There's a lot of things I'm curious about in this game. There's so many we could do an entire video just on this game. I know Arkansas fans and Tennessee fans who might be our two biggest fan bases at this point would be very happy about that. But yeah, this feels like a score wise. I'm curious to see. I feel like this is a lower scoring type game unless this just turns into a free throw shooting contest, which I don't think is out of the realm
Not
of
that
possibility.
that ever happens in the SEC.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think that's possible, but yeah, I think Tennessee defensively, we've seen it, right? Especially at home, if you take the Missouri game out of the equation, Tennessee has really been. I mean, I think I can say this: like Tennessee has almost been flawless defensively at home. If you just take out the Missouri game, if you really dive deep into it. And so I think that's what you have to kind of look at here and just say, hey, maybe just give them the benefit of the doubt that they'll do that again. But I think that's the biggest thing I look at is, and look, I know people may talk about, free throws and all that. That's fine. But the numbers are what they are, and they have just been so good defensively at Thompson Bowling Arena. And so I think that's what I'll lean on here with this one.
Okay, Texas A&M.
Hold on a second. Are you calling the Hogs, or are you going with the Vols?
Oh man,
I gotta make you make your picks on these big games because these are the ones that I get just blasted for. So I gotta make sure you're on.
I'm going to call my shot.
He's gonna
because Arkansas has been better
to
with
the
Nick
crowd.
Smith Jr.
He's gonna pander to
well,
the crowd.
I mean, look, our crowd is I don't know if it's more Arkansas or Tennessee at this point. So I just ticked off.
That's pretty split.
I mean, I'm pretty conservative. I will take a chance here.
All right. Good.
Which means, Vols, you can thank me when you win by 20.
I'd be surprised if that happens, but
they have blown some teams out at times. So that's part of who Tennessee is.
I think Arkansas is good though. They've blown some teams out that haven't been great, but
I do too.
I think Arkansas's. Yeah, we'll see. This is a great game though. Great game on the schedule. Enjoy it. So.
Okay, now we get to Texas A&M, which travels to Oxford to play Ole Miss. You can catch that game on ESPNU, 8 Central. We've got the Aggies as 5-point road favorites. According to Ken Palm, 67% chance to win. To my knowledge, Nick Smith Jr. is not playing for either team in this one.
I heard he's suiting up for Ole Miss in this one.
Don't screw with me right now.
Could be wrong, but I heard he's actually gonna. Here's what's gonna happen, Chris. So if you look at the way the schedule is structured, Nick Smith's gonna suit up for Georgia in the 7 p.m. Eastern time slot. Then he's gonna come back for the Tennessee Arkansas game at 9 p.m. Eastern. Now I've heard because they have 3 SEC games being slotted at the 9 p.m. Eastern hour. They may stagger one of those and ultimately move it back to 11 p.m. Eastern. If they do that, that may give him a little time. If he's in Knoxville, actually, it'd be more likely that he could make the trip from Starkville to Oxford. So he may suit up for Mississippi State and Ole Miss on the same night. That may be something that we've never seen.
Folks, he's that good. He's that
good.
Do you think he goes? Do you think he goes like the fake glasses and nose and mustache route, or does he go like the Leon Sandcastle route?
I don't know, but you know what? I'm changing my mind.
Full on wig and jersey.
Give me any team that Nick Smith plays on. Give me them to win. And all right, let's put him on all these teams, and then that's what we're doing. So yeah,
Nick Smith, your X factor for all 14 Southeastern Conference teams.
Yeah, well,
man, maybe I'm more entertaining when I don't sleep. I don't know.
Anyways. Back to
Ole Miss and Texas A&M are playing a basketball game, and I would like you to break it down, please, and not me.
God Almighty.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, I mean, I think A&M's going to win this game, but this is one where it's like, was that sort of Ole Miss's just sort of final shot, right, in terms of beating LSU the way they did? We said they just played so well. A&M's coming off a loss. I feel like they will. A&M's been pretty good off of losses. If you look at the 2 SEC losses before the one to Mississippi State, lost that game in Kentucky. They came back and beat Auburn on the road by 16. Lost at Arkansas, came back and beat Georgia by 25. So I feel like the bounce back spot is probably, the best bet here for A&M. An Ole Miss team that maybe just got that initial sort of inspired boost, which is, I know it's kind of weird to say, but like we just see that sometimes after coaches get fired. But I just don't. A&M, I think, is just a different animal to deal with here. So yeah, I think I'm going to pick A&M in this one. But because look, I mean, A&M still got something to play for, right? I mean, look, it depends on, I guess, the Alabama-Auburn game, correct? But they're going to go into this still with something to play for because they don't know how Alabama and Auburn's going to turn out because they don't play till Wednesday. So they're still playing for an SEC title in their minds right now. So. So I think, yeah, I would expect A&M to bounce back, and just defensively, I think they'll do some things that will probably make it pretty challenging on an Ole Miss team. Like we said, that just hit its second highest point total of the season or whatever it was, scoring 82 against LSU. It's going to be a lot harder to score 82 against A&M.
Okay. Last 8 o'clock game of the night. Again, that Central SEC Network. South Carolina visits Mississippi State. We have talked about South Carolina's crazy home road splits. That has reversed a little bit of late. Carolina got blown out by Tennessee on Saturday. Mississippi State's been kind of on a roll, has played itself for the time being seemingly into the field of 68, depending on who you ask. State has got a 16%, excuse me, a 6%, an 8% chance of winning, something along those lines. It's favored to win by 16. The only thing that, okay, if Nick Smith Jr. is playing for the Gamecocks, who do you take?
I would take South Carolina if Nick Smith was suiting up for South Carolina. I'm not going to lie there, but he's not, as far as I know. So I'm going to take Mississippi State because we talk about teams with something to play for. They still got a lot to play for because guess what, Mississippi State fans? It's very simple. You lose this game, you're out of the NCAA tournament. Like there is no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Because then what happens, Chris? Then they're definitely going to have a losing record in SEC play. And they would have just lost to either the 12 or 13 seed on their home floor. And if you have that little room for error right now, which I think Mississippi State still does, although they're by no means a lock, but like they're getting there. But the problem is this is the kind of game that does nothing but destroy your resume. They're not moving up after this game unless teams in front of them lose, right? This is not the kind of game that's going to give you a boost. So you have to take care of your business. And I think they will. Go back to that previous game they played. It was a little iffy there for a little bit, wasn't it? Wasn't that a couple weeks ago? Maybe it was almost a month ago now, I guess.
You're asking me for help?
Well, I think it was, I don't want to say it was close. Mississippi State won by 15. They were up 20 at one point in the second half. But like game started, it was kind of close for a while. I want to say the Mississippi State was up 6 at half, something. Yeah, here it is. They're up 6 at half. So like, it was kind of that sort of typical game. But I just, it's all about matchups. And I just feel like Mississippi State is a bad matchup for the South Carolina team, which we can say that in a lot of instances this season for the Gamecocks. But defensively, I just think that there's a difference when you play a team like Mississippi State, and we've said kind of what you expect from these kind of games for them. And you wonder, too, South Carolina after that Alabama game, they come out and lose by 40 the next game on the road against Tennessee. Was that kind of the Super Bowl, right? The Alabama game. You're so close, and you just never know how that can affect your psyche. Do you kind of revert back to what you were earlier in the season? Mississippi State's not the kind of team that I think is just going to come out and win by 40 here, just because I don't trust them enough offensively still. But defensively, I just think it's going to be hard for South Carolina to put together any sort of sustained offense. And so, this is a pretty easy choice for me.
Do you remember that old Sports Center commercial where somebody starts flubbing the lines and somebody walks in and taps their right arm and they pull the guy and they bring the next guy
bring in the reliever.
Bullpen?
Yeah.
That's like what we should have done with me today. Like if this was a couple hours later and my 9-year-old son was in, we could have signaled bringing the right. He would have come in and done a better job than I did today. So if you're still watching it, God bless you. Thank you.
Yes. What are you doing? If you're still watching this, what are you thinking? How did you get here on Monday? No. It's fine.
I'm not always this big moron. Sometimes, but just not always. All right. He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We're Southeastern 14. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.